have this little thing that I kind of say in my head all the time. Build, don't break. Love, don't hate.
And it's you and me, babe, whatever comes. Knowing bigger hands are holding ours. And the greatest days are ahead of us. Growing in love, learning to be a better us.
Hey, welcome to our home. We're glad you're here.
Have you ever noticed how we tend to talk differently to our spouse than we do to our friends?
We think that we need to be brutally honest in marriage, but is brutal honesty really the best policy?
I don't know.
Well, coming up, marriage researcher Shaunti Feldhahn says no.
And speaking of our words, what about the attitude behind our words, especially if that attitude is one of dominance and control, which is absolutely toxic in a marriage?
Right. Marriage expert Jimmy Evans explores the mindset of a hurtful dominant spouse and how they can turn a corner to create a healthy, safe environment where each spouse thrives.
Our kitchen couples have a lot to say about that.
They are CFL football great Mike Pinball Clemens and his wife Diane.
And newlyweds, youth and children's pastors Eric and Kara Maines.
So come on in and let's get started.
To have a great relationship, learn what those in great relationships do differently. In my research study for the surprising secrets of highly happy marriages, I identified 12 little things that make a big difference. Here is secret number 9. Instead of subconsciously taking your spouse and their feelings for granted, be just as careful with how you speak to your spouse as you are with a friend. Ladies, if one of your slightly overweight girlfriends asked if she looked fat in these jeans, would you ever say, yes, you are fat? Or guys, if your buddy lost his softball game, would you ever go over and tell him, you have a really wimpy swing? No way. We would never be unkind like that to a close friend. So why would we treat our spouses any differently? I cannot believe you forgot to get the laundry detergent again. Why would we ever use a tone with our spouse that we wouldn't use with a close friend? In the research, it was clear that one of the things that created happy couples was when one spouse started being very careful of the other person's feelings instead of taking them for granted. They tried to be respectful of the other person in public and in private. The other person usually started doing the same, and it became a way of life. Some people say it is important to be brutally honest, but I've never heard that from a happy spouse. Honest, yes. Brutal, no. Sure, they might have to say something difficult, but that was also when they were the most careful to not hurt their spouse. We don't have to walk on eggshells, but you'll find that it creates much more happiness in your marriage when you are careful not to fling any eggs either.
Okay, good words from Shaunti. Don't speak to your spouse any differently than you would to a friend. And now that's not just her opinion. She bases it on a lot of research for highly happy couples. And so we have, again, we have
some highly happy couples with us.
Yeah, we do. Mike and Diane Clemens and Eric and Kara Maines. So, you know what? It's so true that especially the tone of our voice with our spouse, isn't it?
You know, I wrote down in the back of my Bible, I collect quotes in that, and one of the quotes I wrote down years ago, 25 years ago, was the closer you come into relationship with someone, the more necessary do tact and courtesy become. Because that person that you're coming into a close relationship with, you're in this place of vulnerability. Right. And so if you're not watching your words, the tone of your voice, you can really hurt them deeper than anyone else can.
Some might think differently, that, you know, the longer you know someone, that's okay. We've been together long enough, I can just, blurt out.
But it does.
No, it's actually the opposite.
It does matter. It does.
Good point.
With us, I have to be careful of my tone. Right, because I'm excited all the time, and so I have trouble with the tone. She has maybe a time or two struggle with the words themselves. Right?
Get it out, get it out.
See how tactfully
Just say it.
So courteous.
Yeah, it can be a challenge in really learning to communicate because sometimes I talk like I'm on a football field, right? And for me, it's no big deal. Like we So have this little thing that I kind of say in my head all the time: build, don't break; love, don't hate. And just something I say. I don't necessarily say it to her because I'm the one I need to remind myself. I don't need to preach to her. But
Say it again.
Build, don't break. Love, don't hate. Right. And so, kind of keeping that in your mind and really just enjoy edifying your bride, isn't it? I mean, it's just an amazing thing because when you say really nice things like how beautiful you are today.
Thank you, babe.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so,
I noticed she just kind of leaned into you more when you did that.
We build up so much credit for when we fumble, right? So because we will fumble, we will be challenged, but just try to build it up, right? And build that equity into your relationship. So
And maybe do some of you guys have any tips for us? Because this is so easy when it's like once or twice. Maybe Eric spilled something and I was like, oh, sweetie, it's okay, let's do it together. But what happens when it's multiple times?
Kind of like
or
a reoccurring
it's a reoccurring issue.
that you say, you know what, I know their heart, so I'll sweep that under the rug. But it might happen again and again. Just like maybe we need to face this head on.
You talking about saying something that's hurtful and or
Like,
is that what
how do you watch your
Unintentional
tone?
and unintentional hurt,
Yeah.
unintentional
Yeah.
break instead of build.
That's
It's just kind of things that we would love to get some advice on.
with some of our young guys, as we're sort of mentoring guys, they will all often come in and kind of share things with me privately. And I said, if you didn't mean it, right, don't do it. Right. So let's get to the point where we actually change the behavior. If you don't mean to do it, don't do it. Right. So there comes a point where we just have to change our behavior. And so we can put things in place to help us with that. Right. We can ask people to keep us accountable, to remind us. Right. And the other side of that is where we want to be. So it's not just about, okay, I want to change or I don't want to have that rough tone. The other side of it is actually having a pleasant tone, right? So now so my focus isn't on not having a rough tone. My focus is on actually having a pleasant tone. And if I'm focused on having a pleasant tone, it may not be as pleasant as I think it is, but it certainly won't be that rough tone that we
and to know and to understand that your words actually do have an impact on your spouse. That, and maybe you just need to have like a key phrase that you would say back to Eric, like, don't break me, baby. You're getting close. Like just something loving that you say, and then that triggers in your mind, okay, you know what? Probably the way I just talked wasn't helpful. That could have been hurtful. And then you just kind of build the habit, like Mike said.
My favorite coach was a guy named Don Matthews, and that very thing you're saying, he had a statement. If the team was struggling a little bit, you get the little bickering. He just had a statement. He says, when you hear that, just say clean. Right? So because a part of being in that atmosphere, right, and listening to it actually condones it and allows it to continue to go on, right? So he had a little phrase he would just say, if you hear that negativity, I don't want you to kind of have to stand up to argue with you. None of that. Just say clean. We don't want that around. So clean, boom, and we wash it.
We have to remember to speak like we want to be spoken to.
That's it.
You know that old nursery rhyme, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. But words do hurt, right?
Yeah.
So we have to remember that, and we have to remember to speak like we want to be spoken.
A lot of the times in the Bible, it talks about the power of our words, and that the power of life and death is in the tongue, and the tongue is like a little spark, but that can set off a whole forest fire And so, and it also talks about each of our words needs to be like a gift. You need to couch your words in such a way that you're actually giving a gift. When you say build up or edify, which is like a synonymous, those words, the Bible talks about edify one another. It's just, what words can I say that'll actually build you up? Because there's power of life and death there. Because the opposite is true. What words can tear you down? It's so easy and tends to come naturally.
Some people might think, well, that's just, you're asking too much now. Like this, we're talking about real life here, day-to-day living and the stress of the kids, and I'm working late and the finances aren't where they should be. And you really think my words are going to be gifts all the time? No, not all the time, but if you start to develop a habit of speaking the truth in love, speaking like you said, you treasure this one, and how do you want to be spoken to? That's how you speak to that one, and you just start to build the right habits. Then you find that your attitude and your actions actually follow those habits.
And that carries over to our children, right? The way we speak to our husbands, it carries over to our kids or our wives. So we really do have to be careful, because we need to build our children up, and those words that we speak to them, it makes a difference.
Well, let's stay right here around this island.
There's more wisdom coming.
We're going to be back, and in a moment we're going to be hearing from Jimmy Evans, one of our favorite marriage teachers, about an issue in marriage that could be pretty destructive, kind of like words, but it's a
Taking
different
it to that next level. Stay with us.
Secular research proves that shared control is one of the most important issues in a marriage. We are the only animals on earth that weren't designed to dominate each other.
Hey friends, Ron and Ann here. We're so glad you're with us at A Better Us, and we pray your marriage is blessed as you take this in.
Be sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoy this video.
How many of you grew up in a home where one of your parents was clearly dominant over the other parent? Raise your hand. Watch the hands. Watch the hands. Look around. Look around. Look around. Okay, put your hands down. How many of you believe that that had a negative impact upon their marriage and your family? Put your hands up. Look around. Look around, look around, look around. Oh my gosh. Okay, put your hands down. 70%, 70 to 80%, I've done this all over the world for many years. Every time I ask that question, that's the response that you get. Research proves, secular research proves that shared control is one of the most important issues in a marriage. We are the only animals on earth that weren't designed to dominate each other. Human beings, there's no reference in Genesis 2, when God made man and woman, there's never a reference to one person dominating the other until the fall. And after the fall, there was a curse pronounced, and Eve was told, you will desire to dominate your husband, but he will dominate you. It was a feature of the fall. We are supposed to interact and cooperate and make all of our decisions together, and no one should dominate the relationship. Jesus Christ is Lord of our relationship, and we don't dominate each other. And I was a dominant husband. This is what 1 Peter 3 says to husbands. Husbands likewise, dwell with your wives with understanding. That means she's different than you, and you need not to treat her the way you would any other man. She's a woman, you understand her. Giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel. Let me say, this is saying be gentle with your wife. Women are not weaker. Let me say that right there. Women can do anything. God made them a little physically weaker so they wouldn't take over the universe. And He had to make sure you wouldn't do it. So you're a little physically weaker, okay? As to the weaker vessel. And being heirs together of the grace of life. Listen, husbands likewise dwell with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered. Karen Evans is a fellow heir of the grace of life. In Jesus, there's neither male nor female, and she has as much rank in the kingdom of God as I have, and she has as much stock in the Evans family as I have. You can't be intimate with a person who's dominating you. You just can't do it. And so intimacy happens among equals, where we're respecting each other and loving each other. So the ethic of this is equality. We will not punish each other for being honest, and I will not act alone without you. And Karen, I can't tell you, and this is out of respect. Karen's not being bad when she says this, but this is out of respect. A million times in our marriage, Karen will say, Jimmy, I trust you, you just do it. And a million times I've said, no. Until you come, I'm not going. I will not make that decision without you, because I want to make sure that every single thing in our lives are a product of us and not a product of me by myself. God didn't make marriage so that we can have two people living in the same home making independent decisions. Marriage is about sharing. But if you're going to share, and so let me say, health marries health and unhealth marries unhealth. You always marry your emotional match. Even if you marry the person God brings you, we always marry our emotional match. When Karen and I met, she hated herself, had no self-esteem. I thought I was God. We were a perfect match. And really, this is the way we were. But I was too dominant and Karen was too submissive. But what happened, when Karen began to get well and to be healed, she began to stand up. And for you to be equals in the relationship, the dominant person has to sit down. It's just a matter of being humble and being repentant and respecting your spouse. But the more submissive, and I'm not saying submissive in a good way, the more submissive person has to stand up. Let me say, when you change, your marriage changes. You ever been on a teeter-totter with somebody and you fear them jumping off? Okay, because there's an equilibrium there, okay? And if they move in, it changes. If they move out, it changes, okay? All that. When you get healthy as a person and you begin to stand up in a loving way to your spouse, your marriage just changed because the equilibrium's changed. And when Karen began to stand up to me, it challenged me being an idiot and a chauvinist. And when she began to do that, it was like, wait, you sit down, girl. Don't you start moving around over there. And because I had to make a response to that. Well, thank God for the Lord, because he broke through my heart and I sat down. And our marriage went from this to this. In fact, Karen dominates me now. She's, is she laughing? I need to know. She's too healed. I've asked the Lord to take away some of her healing. And
all right, Jimmy is quite a guy. That was pretty funny, where his wife is too healed and he's asking God to take away some.
Healed.
Okay, well, we're back in the kitchen with Mike and Diane and Eric and Kara, and this whole issue of dominance, as it's a huge one. You see how many people raised their hand as far as, was raised in a home where dominance was the issue, and how many thought it was not a good thing for their home, and those hands can...
When Jimmy asked that question here in the kitchen, I raised my hand because I was raised in a home where one of my parents was much more dominant than the other parent, and it wasn't a healthy situation, and it carried over to me as well as the daughter. So I think it's a really important issue that we need to tackle, because there's some things it could be misunderstood, because there has to be a leader, obviously, but not a dominant one. So
there's a big difference.
There is. So we love this conversation. This is one of our favorite ones.
There's some really good quotable lines in there that we can kind of write down on the fridge or something.
No, absolutely. And he said one of the quotes were, everything in our life is a product of us. As we're building a home and as we're building a life together, we want our legacy and we want our home to be a product
we can say, look what we've done, instead of, hey, look what I did and I brought you along. So, no, it's like we've done this together. This is us.
But as newlyweds and as finding your roles in the relationship, where is the line with the man being the head of the household and then leading together?
Because that is one of the principles the Bible talks about. Like men, you're the head of the household, so guard that. But then dominance and equality. Where's the line there?
That's a great question, and I think it's one that a lot of people struggle with.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people will use that scripture and use it as an excuse for dominance and for being overbearing in the way, but there's nothing wrong with a man being the head as long as he's a sacrificial servant head that cherishes and nourishes his wife. That's the way, that's what the Bible teaches when it talks about, especially in Ephesians 5, where it says, love your wives as Christ loved the church. I mean, that's the opposite of being dominant. That's serving. As husbands, we are responsible for the well-being of the home. If we see it in that sense, that we take on that responsibility, that we're meeting everyone else's needs and serving like Jesus did.
And God honors that, right? When we do that, He honors that. Michael has a thing where he says, I am you and you are me.
Yeah.
When you build me up, you're building yourself up, right? When you tear me down, you're tearing yourself down, right? So, but if we're honoring one another, then when He lifts me up, it's lifting Himself up. Right? So I think that's very important, and I love that quote. And the other thing was, in a marriage, the ultimate height for me in a marriage is when you do everything together, right? So, for instance, you're raising your kids together. It's not just, because in a lot of homes, it's the mom, right? That's raising the kids. I know that's how it was in my home, right? Mom was, she was the disciplinary, she did everything, right? So, but when you're doing that together, when you're striving together, when you're praying together, when you're doing everything together, that's when God is in it, right? When you're together.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, practically though, it's difficult at times to work that out. So we talked about this as a sort of Pollyanna, sort of, yeah, we do it all together. And then when I married Diane, I was a professional athlete. I was in another country. So not only was I a professional athlete, I was making all the money, right? Because she couldn't work. She didn't have a work permit, right? So so even if she wanted to work, she couldn't work. So I'm producing, I've got the fame, I'm producing all the money. And so functionally, how does that work itself out? So maybe just to kind of talk through that. What we did is we have joint bank accounts. Everything is central, except for she has her own little mad account. Right? I say, if I go crazy one day, you keep this money. I don't even know what's over there, right? But you have a right to put whatever in this account.
Whatever you want.
You have this crazy account. If I go crazy, right? You've got that over there, right? So we had those dual accounts, but it went on past that, because not only did we have dual bank accounts, right? We made the decisions, the important decisions together. She decided whether we were going to have kids, when we were going to have kids, right? How many we would have, because I didn't have to go through that process. So this was her decision. I wasn't demanding, I'm the head of the house and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But even simpler things, as in, I still refer to her as my bride, right? And as I refer to her as my bride, there is that adoration, right? And I speak publicly about her in glowing terms. And so as I do that, that lifts her up. That says that, no, I don't look it down to her. I look up to her. And so in tangible ways, I think we can, because we can often say, yes, it's equal, but to the outside world, sometimes, and even in your own family, sometimes it could still be unbalanced because of, for us, it was maybe unbalanced husband to wife, and for others, it's the other way around. But there's a way, I think, we can promote that balance and strike that balance in very tangible ways.
Yeah.
And the Bible talks about, in the beginning, that a man will leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, or cleave, which means passionately pursue her, and the two shall become one flesh. So you're no longer two, but you're one. And so you need to be one in every area. That oneness, means, spiritually, yes. It means everything from financially to decisions in the home, and you realize, okay, you're equals in that sense of you're one, and we need to always bring each other into especially important decisions, and that I'm not going to make that without you. And so that's certainly a key.
And knowing that there is a leader in the home, it first of all, as a woman, we've got to kind of let our pride melt away, because there needs to be a leader. There needs to be a leader. And so if we look to God and God's ways, God says the husband needs to, like Ron said, needs to be the leader, meaning the initiator of the well-being of the home.
Right.
What does that look like? Because he's the protector. He's the one that stands guard physically, spiritually. He prays. He's got that covering. And so it's important to remember that.
But also, if that leader is being like Christ, that, who wouldn't want to follow that kind, because Jesus humbled himself to the point of becoming a human. He didn't use his own powers to help himself, but he said he came to serve.
That's right.
And
so
ultimately died for the church,
Yes.
and gave his life.
total sacrifice for his bride.
That's
right.
So
that's
it's difficult when you're not. So.
Yeah.
So.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I hope you're enjoying this as well.
Yeah.
We could stay here all day.
We could,
But I guess we've got to keep moving on.
Because there is more A Better Us to come.
Don't go away. For more marriage encouragement, follow A Better Us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
And subscribe for your free weekly Marriage Moment email at abetterus.tv.
You know, somebody said that the first order of love is to listen, and that really is true, isn't it?
Yeah, because when we are listened to, that's when we feel known, and feeling known is feeling deeply loved.
You know, Theodore Reich said that listening is really the capacity to do something, he calls it the third ear.
Right.
Listen with the third ear. In other words, hear not just the verbiage, but to hear the emotional message underneath that verbiage, and that's what a skilled listener does.
And that is a gift like no other, really a priceless gift, because that's what intimacy is built on.
It's a little bit like panning for gold, and between the
that's
exchange of every husband and wife, a skilled listener has that capacity to sift through all the verbiage and lift out that little golden nugget of an emotion and say, hey, is this it? Is this how you're feeling? And when you do that for somebody, that's what opens up their spirit. That's when they begin to hear like never before and feel understood like never before.
Yeah, because often we go most of our lives without feeling deeply understood. When you offer that gift to your spouse, amazing.
So listen with the third ear.
Hi, we hope you're enjoying the show.
You know, our vision at A Better Us is to see every marriage become a loving union that creates a safe family haven, building a legacy of hope for future generations.
That's why we feel it's so important to invest in marriage relationships through producing a new episode of A Better Us every week.
Absolutely. If you feel as we do that marriages are worth investing in, then please consider joining us as a member of A Better Us with a monthly donation of $25.
You'll be making a big difference in lives and families, and we'll send you 2 of our special mugs, the mugs that you see our kitchen couples using each program.
Absolutely. And be sure to send us your mugshot selfie, and we'll post it on our Facebook page and on our website.
Simply visit abetterus.tv and click donate to set up your automatic monthly giving. God bless you, and thank you so much for making this program possible and helping us strengthen marriages.
So we can all become a better us.
On today's program, we talked a lot about our words.
I think we can all speak from experience that words can be destructive. They have the power to either build you up or tear you down.
I like what Mike said, build, don't break, love, don't hate.
That's so good.
It's a great motto for each of us in marriage. It helps us to maybe pause and think before we speak.
Maybe in your marriage, some pretty hurtful words have been spoken. Maybe that's a way of life in your home right now. You need to know that it doesn't have to be that way.
Determine right now to make a change. Choose to speak with kindness instead of sarcasm. Use your words to create that safe place you want your marriage to be.
Yeah. We know it's hard to make that kind of change in your own strength, but with God's help, it's absolutely possible. Perhaps you'd like someone to pray for you about that.
The number on the screen is our prayer line. It's free, available 24/7, and totally confidential. We also have some great resources available through our website at abetterus.tv, including a free weekly marriage moment email to give you encouragement for your marriage.
Thanks again for stopping by. And remember, with God, there is always hope to become a better us.
Hey friends, we really hope you're enjoying the marriage conversations here with A Better Us on our YouTube channel.
We have hundreds of more helpful marriage videos designed to give you hope and tools to make your marriage better.
You can see just a few options we think you might like here and here.
enjoy. Oh, and make sure you subscribe by clicking here so you don't miss out on all the great marriage help we have coming your way soon.